Hey folks, this is Zach. I just walked through the law school at UF. I'm on my way to the law school gardens, which is one of the sort of hidden gardens around UF. I might make a video showing all of them off. This one is sort of across from Frat Row and near the president's mansion. A president of UF, of course, not Trump or Biden or whoever's in office next. Hopefully not either of them, they're both dinosaurs. But yeah, this one's next to sort of a weird area, and I'm going to walk through the gardens and come out behind it in a minute. Speaking of laws, here I am, jaywalking across the street. So I think that's sort of acceptable at a college campus. Not enough crosswalks anyways. But yeah, speaking of laws, I'm not sure if my opinions on those are going to be taken well, or if everyone's just going to agree with them. Or the opposite, I mean, if everyone's going to cancel me for them, but we'll see. Gotta make some video about all the weird laws and legal stuff that goes on these days. So, as if you've watched any of the other videos, you've noticed a lot of the stuff I do is probably technically illegal. Not anything that people go out and try to arrest you for, but like going into steam tunnels and storm drains and even the ravines on campus, probably not totally legal. Why? It's not like I'm going to steal technology from the campus or sabotage the steam tunnels or anything. It's because of liability, which is one of the biggest problems with legal stuff these days, in my opinion. Liability, for anyone who somehow is blessed enough to not know about it, is if you get injured or something happens to you on a certain person's property or company's property, that's usually the issue. They are liable. They could be sued by you or your family if you've died somehow, and they have to pay money because something happened to you on their property and it was like a safety risk, which is, well, it was invented for a good reason, of course. Like, if workers got injured at a factory, the factory has to pay their medical stuff and has to pay their unemployment. That's great. That was a great victory for labor. But now liability means, at least in context of the stuff I'm doing on here, it means you're not really allowed in any abandoned areas. You're not allowed at any construction sites. That's a felony. I've not been on any construction sites in my videos. You're not allowed to do lots of things and go to lots of places, because if someone goes in those places and gets injured, the company or university or government agency that owns them could be sued by that person or their family. And it's not just big public corporation type things that could be sued for this. I'm from Florida, famous for all the Florida man news stories, but there's some interesting stories about liability. Before we get into those though, I want to turn the camera around and sort of show off the law school woods, just because I'm here. So it's not the most impressive woods, but it has some cool jogging trails, and they're cool because it's pavement, but it all has this sort of lichen, moss, grassy stuff growing on it, which is fun to walk on. Bit slippery, but fun to walk on. And in the middle there's this big old pavilion, which there's no grill out here, but you could probably bring your own. There's a bit of parking. It's a nice place to relax. It's a very peaceful woods if you could ignore all the sounds of traffic from 2nd Street or 2nd Avenue. Anyway, back to liabilities and fun stories from Florida. So there was a famous story. Florida man breaks into person's house. A burglar. He's trying to rob them, like steal stuff out of their house. But he tried to break in through their sunroof, which if you're not from a sunny state, it's a roof made out of glass on top of your house to let in the sun and light and like warmth and everything. But this burglar fell through their sunroof and cut himself on either glass or some sort of sharp object on this person's living room floor. And the burglar, who was trying to rob the person's house, sued the homeowner and won. Because this individual got injured on this person's property, well, sort of inside their property, they were able to sue the homeowner for liability, and the homeowner had to pay them money, which is, well, I guess that is burglary. they did lose some money in it, but that's insane, right? Any respectable judge or jury would never have voted for that outcome of the case, but there must be a legal precedent, which is something else I want to talk about. Some previous case that, because they made a certain ruling, all future cases also have to be ruled the same way, even if It's really a technicality that shouldn't apply, like a burglar injures themselves breaking into a house and is able to sue. That there's a precedent that says they could win the case, but that should not apply. It's not just down here in Florida where everyone's sort of crazy and there's a lot of drug use. I'm not even sure if I can tell this story on YouTube, but there was, I think it happened 2 times in South Florida. Someone took something called bath salts and committed sort of crimes against humanity. They tried to eat someone and got shot to death by the cops while they were eating someone. Fortunately, the victim survived. He's a homeless dude under a bridge. It was on video, which was why everyone knew about it at the time. He survived, went to the hospital, got skin grafts. But yeah, Florida's crazy. But it's not just Florida where we have liability cases like that. Things that are just completely illogical and immoral being ruled for in the courts. I have family up in northern states too, up in Indiana. And over there in Ohio, there's a certain crime that goes on. And it's one that makes gun owners pretty mad. For good reason, I'll explain it. So, cars, I'm not a car person, never owned one, don't want to. But they have a thing called a catalytic converter, or a CAT, which is, I think it's some sort of like electrical battery sort of thing, but it's sort of exposed on the bottom of the car. There's heavy metal in it that's worth quite a lot of money, and certain criminals will cut them with like angle grinders or something, cut them out of the car and sell them. Now, in any sane society, if you saw someone, or usually 2 people, because it's quite heavy to carry this thing once it's been cut out of a car, if you saw 2 criminals cutting a large piece of your car out of your car with the intent to steal and sell it, you would be completely justified in pointing a gun at them and saying, "Get the hell away from my property or I will shoot you." Unfortunately, that's not the case, because the laws up there say that if you point your gun at someone, especially if you do shoot them, it doesn't matter if they're trying to steal your stuff, you will get jail time or prison time. There is a somewhat famous case where a security guard, he looked out at the parking lot, someone was stealing a catalytic converter, he fired some shots. I don't know if they were warning shots or intent to maim or kill, but he hit them. I don't know if he actually killed the thief, but he hit them with a bullet, and he went to jail, even though he was a security guard stopping a crime on the place he was supposed to be securing, which is insane to me. And some people will say, like, well, their life is worth more than your property. You value your property above their life? Buddy, if you are risking your life to steal someone else's property, you value their property above your life. If someone wants to defend their property, that is completely justifiable. There should be no law that says you can't defend your car against someone who's trying to cut pieces off of it to sell it. But anyway, yeah, because of that law, that legal system up there, there are lots of videos online of car owners standing by, filming as 2 people completely in broad daylight steal their catalytic converters and walk away with them. They're saying, "Put it down, get away from my car." Even if they're holding weapons, the thieves don't even care. Like, they just look at them like, "Go on, shoot me, you'll go to jail. It's not even worth your time, just buy a new catalytic converter." There's stories of people who have had them cut out of their car 2 or 3 times just because they live in a bad area. And actually, the place my family stays at in Griffith, Indiana, because it's next to certain areas that have high crime, the car insurance rate is almost twice what is in places like 200 miles further south. So it's definitely a huge issue up there, but I have no idea if anyone will solve it. Hopefully we have a president who creates the right environment to deal with politically incorrect things during our next election. I don't know. We'll have to see. The last few have been contemptible. But of course, that's not really my main concern with dumb laws, especially liability related laws, because I don't plan to own a car or a house. When I was traveling overseas, I stayed in hostels most of the time, which are like almost always under $10 a night, usually under $5 in most countries, like Southeast Asia. You get a bed, usually in a dorm with a few other people, and you meet really cool travelers that way. And I met quite a few older men, a few women, but mostly older men, who had been traveling for years. Like, they work, then they travel for a few years, work, travel, sometimes retire if they like worked for 30 years and just traveled the rest of their life. I met people who are like 70 or 80, still traveling, living in hostels, which $5 a night doesn't add up that fast. Like, They pay less for living all around the world with no worries about rent or flood insurance or anything like that. Way less than they'd pay if they just bought a house somewhere and settled down. I understand why most people do settle down, but I don't really want to. My goal in life is to get a YouTube channel that is bringing in just enough cash, like 10 or 15 grand a year, that I can just backpack around cheaper countries for the rest of my life. Maybe occasionally save up and go to Europe or something. I heard Africa's quite expensive because the ratio of hotel staff and like safari staff to tourists is really high. They'll have like 5 staff members for every person in the hotel, something crazy like that. But yeah, obviously my concern about legal stuff like that is not about like thieves taking my stuff, like large items like car parts and breaking into my home, which I'm not going to own. It's about getting in trouble for doing harmless things like I was in the steam tunnels in my first video. Probably illegal. Did I hurt anyone? No. Did I hurt myself? Got an eye infection because sort of an anthill blew into my eyes in this air column, but I'm not going to sue anyone because I got an eye infection. That's completely my own fault. No sane or a rational human being would say it was UF's fault or the steam company's fault. I don't know. There's probably some liability law that says I can't be down there, it's illegal, because some scumbag could go down there and get injured and then sue UF because they got injured on UF's property. It's UF's fault. They shouldn't have these dangerous things be accessible. And I think that the fact that judges and juries have set precedents that those people win their cases is disgusting. Society should not cater to the lowest sort of scum, like the people who will do something cool and then sue the landowners because they got injured doing something cool without the landowner's permission on their property. Because when those people set that precedent, now people who are just trying to like do adventurous stuff, we can't do it. Like, there's so many places you can't get into anymore, or like there's signs that you will be prosecuted if you go in here, not because they think we're going to damage or sabotage or commit espionage and steal their stuff, because they think that we'll like damage ourselves and sue them for it. This sort of relates to something I wrote after I hiked Israel. I sort of wrote it as a full book about the hiking experience I had. It's my first major hike. I'll try to get it published eventually. I sort of need to polish it and finish it. But on their parks, like their national parks, even they're smaller, I don't really know what they call them. It's not a state park. It's a very small country. But in their big parks, they'll have a sign that says, you should bring 3 liters, well, sorry, you should bring 3 liters of water a day. You should not go into the gorges or the like dry riverbeds if it's rainy season, because they could get flooded really fast. And it has a few other like cautionary tips like that. But if you go in there, there's no liability. It's on you. You die in that park, they'll get your body out, but you're not going to be able to sue the government or the park service for having an unsafe condition. There was a sign. It said everything you need to know to stay safe. The sign even said like, don't go in there at certain times. Don't be stupid. And safety is your own responsibility, which is like Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. But it's also the other way. Like with great responsibility, like they let people have that responsibility for their own safety. The people have so much more power to do things and go places. America should be. It's land of the free, home of the brave, not home of the too cowardly to crawl down a tunnel because someone might get injured and sue the tunnel owner. There's so many places like caves, parks. I mean, I just love the idea of going into the abandoned factory, but highly illegal because lots of dangerous stuff that could go on. So of course when I travel, I'll try to do that in another country, but it's amazing to me that this very touted, it's a very free country. I've been to places that have problems with freedom of speech and stuff, but it's amazing that we don't have that sort of freedom just to like risk our own lives doing stuff. Like tobacco's legal. Lots of people die from lung cancer from that. Alcohol's legal. Lots of people get into drunk driving accidents. It's amazing that like such a basic human thing like exploring the environment we live in should be illegal when other things are not. Anyway, I've turned the camera around. Probably tired of staring at my face if you're still watching. This is a sort of cool trail. It's not university gardens, it's law school woods or law school gardens. And it's just sort of like, I don't know what shape it is. It'd be cool to see it by satellite. One of my friends has a drone. Maybe I'll ask him to take it up here. Well, it's sort of a big looping trail that goes around the woods. Very nice if you're just walking a pet or something. And I'm going to turn the camera. Now that I just talked about legal stuff for the last 10 or 20 minutes, this will probably just be its own video. I probably won't end up making a video of all the little weird hidden gardens and woods around UF. I'll have each one, I'll just like talk about something while I walk through them. But yeah, it's not in great condition. There's not, I'll turn the camera again. There's not that much stuff here as far as trees, but it is pretty. You got benches, you have some really interesting looking roads that are like covered in moss and lichen. You got a few big trees, I guess. That's a nice pine tree. It's just a very peaceful place to walk around. And I'm sure all the law students are using it just for that. But anyway, folks, now that I've actually talked, I don't think any of my opinions there were very controversial. I'd love to know if anyone knows the history of like how those legal precedents came into place. Like how a judge said, you will get sued if you shoot the person who's trying to steal your car. Or if someone breaks into your house and they get injured, they could sue you. I'd love to know how that reality, that legal reality and environment came into place. If anyone in the comments knows it, that must be some interesting and probably infuriating history. But yeah, if you know anything, it's like the opposite of this. Like if you know a good reason why some of those laws exist, please put it in the comments. I'd love to hear the other side of any issue I have an opinion on. So I try not to make it too many of them. I'm a bit of a libertarian, but I feel like a lot of people decide that they have to have an opinion on every single issue, and it turns them into a constantly offended person, which is not fun to be around. I try to just be chill, try and not let too many things affect me. But yeah, if you have a strong opinion on that, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. Anyway, folks, I think that's where I'll call it for today, and peace. Have a good day, everyone.